For a section of basic terms and definitions, now that we know, right, you guys learned already the definitions of certain words. Now that we know the meaning of our words, now that you took your time looking at the key terms and you understood what they are, we're going to start working with them. Now, statistics in reality tends to be studies, right? We do a study, but sometimes we cannot do a study on the whole population. So we do a study on a sample. So now here, I'm going to give you some scenarios, and then I'm going to ask you for a few words from there. Now, key part on our scenarios. Some of our information is not always represented. Right? Usually the one information that is not going to be there is this last thing that we see here, data. Data is basically what I expect, the numbers the results that I expect, right? Sometimes I'm not going to show you there. For example, I could ask you guys an example like, oh, we're going to do a study of GPAs. And that's all I say, right? I haven't done the study yet. Then I want to see what's the GPA of most people, or like the GPA of our freshman students, our sophomore students, or I can be looking at the GPA of a certain school, right? Depending on the population I want to look at, but I'm looking for GPAs. Like I said, it's not our example here. I'm just saying a different example. And all I said is I'm looking at GPAs. But then I ask you for the data. Well, the data will basically mean what kind of answers do I expect to get from people that I interview, right? Some of them might have like a 3.5 GPA, some of a 2.0, a 4.0, right? Some numbers. So even though our words might not have all the information, I do expect you to be able to answer everything here. So here, for example, our study here, determine what the key term refers to in the following study. We want to know the average mean or amount of money spent on school uniforms each year by families with children at current academy, right? We're looking at where we have current learned, we're in current learned, so I call this current academy. So notice how I want to know an average, how much money do people spend on school uniforms? And this academy that I invented, they do have uniforms, right? So current learn, we don't have uniforms, but current academy, we will. So like I said, it's a study that I'm doing. We randomly surveyed 100 families with children in this school. 3 of the families spent $65, $75, and $95 respectively. So now the population. The population is basically who do I want to study, right? You guys learn, right? When you guys go to your key terms, right, you guys have those still. Population. Let me read the definition of population. I open my page and says population. All individuals, objects, or measurements whose properties are being studied. So all of them. That's basically what the population is basically all of them. Okay. So let's take a look. My population will be, in this case, I'm going to say the families with children. Oops. Oh, gotta love technology sometimes. Let's see. Let me take a screenshot of this. Population is basically everybody that I want to study. So I'm just going to write families with children at current academy. Okay, this thing's not letting me write. So population, I'm just not gonna write it out. So on our notes, I'm just gonna say it. You guys write it down. So population is basically everybody that I want to study. But I wanna know, right? We wanna determine the average number of glasses of, oops, wrong question. Let me change it back to the question that we're working on. All right, so here's my first question. So the population, it says we want to know the average amount of money spent on school uniforms each year by families with children at current academy. So who am I studying? Who is the population? Who actually spends the money in school uniforms? So for population, like I said, I'm not going to be able to write it. You guys could see that I was not able to. So what I will type, what I will be for my answer, the population will be families with children in a current academy. That's who I'm studying, right? It could be hundreds or thousands of families. I'm not quite sure at this time. Remember, current academy is academy I invented. So we're doing a study on this population. Now, sample. Now, remember, sample is part of the population. When I read on my key terms, what do samples say? A subset, so that means a group of the population study. Okay, so now coming back to our study here, our sample, who did I study? Then I see when I'm reading the question here, it says, we randomly surveyed 100 families with children in the school. Okay, so who participated in my survey? 100 families with children in the school. So my sample could be all the students enrolled in one section of a beginning statistics class at Kern Academy. Right? Who did I study? Who did I choose from? It could be all the students that Mr. Leonzo has in Kern Academy. So who participated in my survey? That's what you guys would write for sample. Now parameter, right? When you guys read your notes, I'm gonna read the definition from our notes. Parameter, it says a number that is used to represent a population characteristic that generally cannot be determined easily. Now, what this parameter really means the characteristics of the people that we're studying, okay? According to our definition, that's parameter. So it is the characteristics that are of our population of people that we're studying. So what I would write here, and this is usually a number that we have for answered, what I would write for parameter, right? You guys are statistics students, so it's okay if I don't write it. I'm just gonna say what I would write. For parameter, I will write the average, which is the mean amount of money spent on school uniforms each year by families with children at Kern Academy when the study was done, right? That is what I'm studying. I want to, my study here, my thing is, I want to know the average amount of money spent on school uniforms, and I randomly chose 100 people. So I will say my parameter will be the amount of money spent on school uniforms each year by families with children at Kern Academy. Now, notice that my parameter is describing the population. It is not describing my sample, right? What do I want to study? I have a population, but I cannot survey the whole population, so I survey a sample. But my parameter is basically describing my population. Okay. Then we move into the next word, statistics. You guys have your key terms. According to our paper, statistics, it's a numerical characteristic of the sample. So now this is going to describe the sample. A statistic estimates the corresponding population parameter. So coming back to our work here, remember parameter was describing the population. Statistic is going to describe the sample. Okay, so what I would write for statistics would be it's an average amount of money spent on school uniforms each year by families with children at Kern Academy in the sample. That's what I would write. Now the variable you guys learned in algebra. Variable is what changes, right? It was usually an X you guys saw for a variable. Now here in statistics, variable means the characteristic of interest for each person or object in the population. Mr. Leonzo, that's mumbo jumbo. What would I write here? Okay, what do you think varies? What's changing? Okay, I know algebra we said X equals because variable was a letter. So what's changing here? So I would just say, okay, what are we studying here? For variable, what I will write for variable is could be the amount of money that is spent on school uniforms by a family with children at Kern Academy. You guys learned that variable was an X. So I'm just going to say let X equals the amount of money spent on school uniforms by a family with children in current academy. All right, we're looking at the study here. Again, statistics is the study of something. We're looking at how much money do families spend on uniforms. So what varies? The amount of money they spend. So it could be the amount of money spent on school uniforms by a family with children in current academy. The variable, the number that changes, we could say let X equals the amount of money spent on school uniforms by a family with children in current academy. Now, the last thing, the data, it's basically what results do I expect? According to our key terms, the definition of data, it's a set of observations. Most data can be put into groups. There's qualitative, quantitative, it could be discrete and continuous, but we're going to get more into detail of those words. But in reality, is a set of observations. Now, in English, you guys might be like, so that's kind of confusing. The results that I expect to get, like I'm going to ask people on my study, here it is, how much money did they spend on uniforms? What type of answers am I expecting to get? Now, looking at the last thing, it says 3 of the families spent $65, $75, and $95 respectively, right? I sample 100 people, 100 families. What type of answers do I expect to get? That's what we call data. So what I will write, for my answer is the money spent on school uniforms by families with children at current academy. Examples could be $65, $75, $95, and probably $100. Some of you might be like, Mr. Leonzo, I don't see 100 here in the example. Remember, data is the answers that I expect to get. Here, there's only 3 samples. But remember, I surveyed 100 families. So, yeah, could somebody say $100? Yeah, of course. Could somebody say, I only spent $50 in uniform? Yeah, of course. Data is what answers do I expect? All right, let's take a look at another example. Let me take a look at our second example here. Remember, statistics, we're doing a study. So here, determine what the key terms referred in the following study. You want to determine the average or mean number of glasses of milk high school students drink per day. Suppose yesterday in your English class, you asked 5 students how many glasses of milk they drank the day before. The answers were 1, 0, 1, 3, and 4 glasses of milk. Okay, so here, our curiosity wants us to know how many glasses of milk people drink per day, high school students drink per day. You guys are high school students, right? If I asked you, okay, you're a high school student, how many glasses of milk do you drink per day? Right? You guys will give me different answers. Some of you don't even drink milk. Some of you guys drink a lot of milk. So if I asked you, each of you will give me a different answer. Well, I want to know what's the average amount of glasses of milk high schoolers drink per day. Well, let's take a look at population. So I want to know who. My population is everybody. Who am I studying? So I would just say high school students in the US, because I want to know how many glasses of milk students drink per day. High school students drink per day. So who am I studying? The overall picture. Who is everybody that what's the group called that I'm studying? In this case, for population, I will say high school students in the United States. Now the sample, keep in mind, suppose that yesterday in your English class, because you're not going to be able to go ask every high school student how many glasses of milk do they drink. So you went, we're doing a study. Yesterday we went to an English class and you asked 5 students how many glasses of milk they drank. So my sample I will just say, students in my English class, right? Who did I survey? Remember, population is the overall picture. Everybody that will answer this sample is who did I ask? You guys have seen in the news when elections are coming up, they said, "Oh, people, this many people or percentage support this president." Yeah, but the news cannot go ask everybody. They just use a sample. Now my parameter, remember my parameter describes my population. So what characteristics does my population have? So listen, my parameter will be the average number of glasses of milk high school students in my English class drink per day when I did the survey. Now, what are the statistics? Is the average number of glasses of milk drunk by high school students in the sample. Now, what varies? Variable. I'm looking at what varies. Now, I expect some answers. Well, it could be the amount of glasses of milk drunk by high school students, right? That is that's what I'm surveying. So that will be what I will write for my variable. Again, I'm not writing down the answers. I'm just saying them. I want you to, in statistics, most of the answers they have to be your own words. So that's why I'm not writing anything. My variable could be the amount of glasses of milk drunk by high school students, because that's what I'm studying. Okay, what varies? Remember in algebra, we said x equals, and then x was the variable. So in this case, I will say let x equals the amount of glasses of milk drunk by a student in my English class. Right? What do I expect to vary? I have a bunch of students. I'm going to ask each of them, okay, how many glasses of milk do you drink a day? How about you? How many glasses of milk do you drink a day? I'm going to ask the same question to everybody. So what is the variable? What changes from the answer one student will give me to the answer another student will give me? Well, what will vary is the amount of glasses of milk that each of the students in my English class drink. Now, data. Data, remembered, are the answers that I expect to get. If I already did the survey, well, the data is the answers that I got. If I haven't done the survey, the answers that I expect to get. Okay, so the answers, I asked 5 people, and the answers were 1, 0, 1, 3, 4. So the amount of glasses of milk drunk by high school students, my examples, that's my data. How many glasses of milk do high schoolers drink? And then examples will be 1, 0. I'm not going to say 1 again. So I will just say 1, 0, 3, 4. What type of numbers do I expect to get?